Let's discuss the digestive system. So the digestive system, as you know, its job is to take your food, break it down, and release the nutrients into your blood. So overall functions of this system is ingestion, bring the food in through your mouth. After you ingest it, you must move it through your system. That's called propulsion. Done through things like segmentation, peristalsis. Then as you move it along, you have to digest it. So the digestion, so propulsion, again, examples would be peristalsis, which moves along the GI tract, as well as your segmentation, which is used to mix the food along with the enzymes that come into play. Digestion can be done, you have mechanical digestion, where you break the food up into small pieces, as well as chemical digestion, where you break the food into food groups. So you bring it in, move it, digest it, and then after you're done breaking it down physically and chemically, you then absorption. You absorb the nutrients into your blood. Then after absorption, you then compact what's left behind. So compaction. And that compaction is to compact it into feces. So this is basically making feces of what's left behind. And then you have elimination. Okay, so bring it in, move it, break it down, absorb it, compact it, and get rid of it. The main functions, overall functions of your digestive system. Now, let's dig in a little bit on digestion. So digestion here, okay, is done mechanically. That's just the physical breakdown of your food. That's done by your teeth in the mouth, as well as by the muscles along the GI tract, especially in the stomach, where you have that extra layer of a big muscle that can really help to break the food down into small bits. Because once you break it down into small pieces, then the chemical digestion is more successful, because then they can access the food groups or access the chemicals that would have been hidden otherwise by a big physical structure. So chemically here, chemical digestion involve enzymes. Okay, enzymes largely produced by your pancreas get involved here to break down things like your polysaccharides, get broken down into monosaccharides. Okay. You also have your proteins get broken down into your amino acids. This is monosaccharides. This should be some recall from the first couple of weeks of a semester. Monosaccharides. And then you have your triglycerides. Triglycerides, can't spell tonight. Again, spelling triglycerides, which basically are your fats, get broken down into your monoglycerides and fatty acids. And then finally, you have the fourth group of major molecules, which are your nucleic acids, get broken down into your nucleotides. And only when these big things are broken down into these small things can they be absorbed. These cannot be absorbed, too big. They have to be broken down into these individual components. Then these are absorbed into your blood across the small intestine. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's look at salivation. So salivation is a process of making saliva. So in your saliva, it's mostly, well, before we even get there, your salivation or saliva is produced by two sets of glands. You have your intrinsic salivary glands, which always keep the mouth moist, okay? And then you have the extrinsic ones. So we look at the extrinsic salivary glands. These include your pair of parotid glands, submandibular glands, and your sublingual glands. Okay, these glands are activated in response to chemoreceptors and mechanoreceptors in your mouth. So they are activated when food enters mouth. Because the entry of the food will trigger your chemoreceptors and your mechanoreceptors. And then these receptors will relay information, right, to your salivatory nuclei, which is in your medulla oblongata. And then this nuclei will trigger your salivary glands to release saliva into the mouth, okay? And then the saliva that is produced, has some properties. So let's look at saliva. Saliva has a neutral pH of around 7.4. It has mostly water, 99% is water, but it also has some other critical things. It has salivary amylase. This is an enzyme made by the salivary glands, and this enzyme is there to break down starch. So it chemically digests starch for you. So inside the mouth right away you start to break down your starch. Then you also have lingual lipase. Okay. This one breaks down fats for you. Fats in the stomach. So even though it's made by the tongue and released in the mouth with saliva, it works once you swallow it and gets to the stomach, then that's when it works. So and it starts to break down your fats inside the stomach, not inside the mouth. That's lingual lipase. You also have some other components, include some lysozyme or enzymes that will kill bacteria. You also have immunoglobulin A, which helps to prevent bacterial growth. This is all in the saliva, okay? But it's mostly there. Again, it also makes mucin. So mucin is the chemical that mixes it with water to make mucus. So that makes the food slippery, okay? Slippery foods, it's more swallowable, okay? All right, now after the food enters the mouth and saliva is released into the mouth to help the process out of digesting the food, lubricating the food, then you must swallow the food, okay? So swallowing, let's look at that next. swallowing occurs in two phases. You have your phase. You have the buccal phase. Buccal phase. This one is voluntary. This is when you have the food in your mouth and you decide to swallow it. So the buccal phase will push food, or what's called bolus, into the oropharynx. Okay, that's the buccal phase. And once you're in the buccal phase, then that starts the next phase. So phase 1 is buccal. Phase 2 is your pharyngeal, esophageal phase. That phase is involuntary. So once the food enters your oropharynx, this phase will push the food from your oropharynx into the stomach. So moves food through pharynx, through esophagus, and finally into the stomach. Then that phase ends. During this phase in particular, respiration is interrupted. You can't breathe at some points during this phase because you have to shut off your airways so food doesn't go into your nose or into your larynx. Okay, it may take about 8 seconds to complete this journey, especially for solid foods. Of course, once the food is in your esophagus and moving down, your breathing can return to normal. Okay, it's just once the food is in the pharyngeal areas, you must shut off breathing so the food doesn't go in the wrong places. All right, and once the food passes through the esophagus, then your esophageal sphincters, okay, they close behind the food so food is not regurgitated back up in the esophagus. The muscles right behind it, pushing it down. All right, so that's the digestive system. We've covered overview, we've covered saliva and swallowing, and next we'll look at the stomach. So let's pause here.